All right, now that we're all here at 6:33, I'm going to call us to order, and everyone's present, including guests Jenny Griffin and our general manager Kevin Davis, who's not really a guest, but anyway, since he's running the meeting. Any public comment for items not on the agenda?
No, just to stay safe and happy holidays.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. All right, so consent items, or no, excuse me, annual. You're showing.
Oh, this is the November.
Yeah, you're showing the wrong. All right, well, the agenda you should be showing item 3A is elect board officers for 2022, and since Misha as our vice, she normally would. I normally nominate her to ascend the chair. President chair. Anyway, I've forgotten which one it is. Do you remember, Kevin? Is it chair?
It's the chair.
Chair, yeah. And we need a vice chair who cannot be me. So that leaves 3 other choices. Who wants to be vice chair? I think all the other 3 officers all have served the same amount of time. So there's our rules for picking somebody don't really specify any one of them, right, Kevin Davis?
Yeah, that's right. Unfortunately, normally it would go by whoever hasn't served the longest. Unfortunately, everyone is the same, except for Steve.
Of those 3, yeah, they're all the same.
Yeah. So does anyone?
The only thing I could think of was Kevin Chow might be a good person because he's at least nominally living in the same time zone. Because the most of the time, what you have to do as vice chair is take over in case the chair can't make it for some reason, you know.
That worked.
So, is that Kevin Chow?
Yeah.
So, if I nominate you for vice chair, it's fine with you?
Yes.
Because that'll also put you in line for chair the year afterwards. And when does your term expire?
I'm not sure. How long the term's for?
It's a 4-year term, so you've got quite a few years left.
Okay.
But 2 of the terms were 2-year terms. Remember, Kevin? So
no, only 1 term. So it's Misha's is going to be up this year.
okay. So all right, that makes sense. All right. Well then, I'll nominate Misha as our chair and Kevin Chow as our vice chair. Anybody else want to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, that was not cool?
Yeah.
Okay. With the little pictures, it's harder to see who's doing things. Okay. Any discussions? No, I didn't think there would be. Then I move the question, and since it is an election, I vote yes. And do we want to poll Kevin Davis for this?
That's up to you. We could. Director Bajaj?
Yay.
Director Chow?
Yes.
Director Racy?
Yep.
Director Sethi?
Yep.
Okay, so unanimous. All right. The other things I think I'll do faster. Well, congratulations, and next meeting, Misha, you'll be running. So
Congratulations.
yeah, congratulations, and unless something happens, in which case Kevin will be running it. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for putting up with me running meetings for this, your first year on the board. I've tried my best. Anyway, 3B, adopt the 2022 regular board meeting schedule. We have to vote on that, Kevin, or not?
Sorry, had a little bit of trouble with the mute button there. Yes.
All right. And well then, who wants to make a motion to adopt that schedule?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I'll second it. I just don't want to make all the motions, which I have at a few meetings, I think. Anyway, so is there any objection to this schedule at this time? We may have, over the course of the year, something may come up and we may have to move one of the dates at the most, but hopefully not. So, all right. If there's no objection, the way I do it at this Special Districts Association is since we have a lot of more people to vote, or a couple more votes, it's just faster to say, does anyone object? If no one objects, then it's unanimous. And it's faster than polling us. So hearing no objections.
I'm looking at the schedule, I might have an issue on the 13th.
January.
Yeah. So if possible, are we able to move that to
Yeah.
a different date?
Yeah, we could. It's possible. Let's see. So if we moved it a week, it would be to the 20th. Is there any, conflict with that, Kevin Davis, that you can think of? Is it President's Day or something like that?
That might be a few days before. Let me just double check when the observed federal holiday is.
Yeah, got to watch out for those. I don't have to ask you your reason, but I could ask you, Kevin, what's your reason? You think you may be out of town?
Yeah, I'll probably be out of town, so I may not be available that day. Probably be out of town that day.
We should be fine for the 20th. It looks like the 17th is MLK Day.
Okay. So, all right. Yeah. Well, we can make that change. I have no objection to making that change. If no one else has an objection to making that change, we'll make it now so that we know it now. All right. Okay. So January 20th instead of the 13th. Okay. So that gives Misha another week to get her act together for her first meeting. All right. So with January change to the 20th, is there any objection to the schedule? No. Okay. Then I assume all are in favor because there were no objections. Next item, review and adopt the legislative advocacy priorities. Boy, that was a long document, 9 pages. I'm going, the only thing I saw was there was a 2-line change to encourage having meetings via Zoom as part of our agenda. Because for the foreseeable future, with what little we know about the COVID, continuing to meet with using Zoom is probably the safest way to meet. Certainly it's not optimum in some ways, but it's optimum in others. So do we have to adopt that? Yeah, we have to adopt that. So I'll move to adopt those priorities. Who wants to second the motion? Somebody.
Second.
Nakul again? Okay. The more like I say, the more I read it in discussion, the more I read it, the more I go, God, these are convoluted. But I think in the end, the idea of trying to be able to advocate for things between meetings, which was a reason for having the priorities explicitly put out there, is still a very difficult thing to do, but it may help the district at some point. So, all right. Any other discussion? Any other points to make? No? All right. Then, is anyone object to adopting the 2022 board legislative advocacy priorities? Okay. No. Then unanimously passed. Item 3D, review and adopt the board policy review schedule. I noticed that your board policy review schedule, the only minor typo that was in there, after you get through these 9 pages, was it's 2022, but you changed it. Good. Thank you. Table 1 now says proposed 2022 policy review schedule. This was a little confusing to me, Kevin, other than we're going to continue to address gaps in policy 3000 series, which are all the 3000s are all the financial ones.
Yes, that's correct. So 3000 is the administration of the district. It goes beyond financial, but that's what we're working on right now. Yes.
Right, right. Yeah. So, and Q2 policy 2000, administration. Yeah. So there's still some gaps in our administration policies.
We'll take the time to take a look at that. For Q2, it would be more for personnel type things. This would be like a nepotism policy, for example, sexual harassment prevention. We already have that at the staff level, but it's always good to have a board policy so that the board is protected as well.
Okay. Yeah, that brings up the fact that hopefully Kevin Chow's taken his Kevin and Misha have both taken their sexual harassment and ethics classes, because according to the rules, you shouldn't be an officer without both of those. So if you haven't, please get through them in the next month if you can. Legally, it would be a stronger leg to stand on as officers. I forgot to bring that up on item 3A. All right. So we need to adopt those. I'll make a motion to adopt the board policy review schedule. And who wants to second it?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Misha. Any more discussion? No? Then is there anyone who objects to adopting the board policy review schedule for 2022? Hearing no objections, it is unanimous. Consent items. All right. Consent items, I think we'll keep going the same way. Approve the interim financial report, which, does anybody have any questions on that? Well, again, let's see. We have to approve that. And the board meeting minutes from last month, and the check register, and the resolution. I'm going to roll all 4 of those together so that we can save time. Does anybody have any questions on all 4 of those? I move to approve consent items A, B, C, and D. I told Kevin Davis offline, I'm not sure. Every month you have to have a resolution in order to have this Zoom meeting. And I'm not sure that I have signed the one for last month. I don't think I got it. So we've got to double check and make sure that for every meeting we've had since September, I think it is, when we transitioned to using government, the new government code, that someone has signed it, and that I know we passed it at whatever month we're missing a signed one of. So check register, any questions on that one? I'm going backwards through them. Or board meeting minutes. I didn't have any corrections to those. No other corrections from anyone else? No. Okay. Any questions on those consent items, or we'll just go ahead and adopt them? All right. I know if there's no objection.
Was there a second? I'm sorry, I'm not.
Oh, that's right. We didn't get a second. I made it first. Who made it? Who made the second? No one.
I can second. Nupur.
Okay, thank you, Nupur. All right. Unless there are objections, we will pass those. All right. General manager's report. Now, I did notice on general manager's report that you said electronic payments. More information is available in the staff report on item 6.A.1. I couldn't find that.
I may have messed up the numbers. They, there's 24 documents in this thing, so.
Anyway,
Oh, yeah, or it may have been removed. I removed it.
okay.
But I can show you what I was going to show you. Okay, so actually, I should probably show you in 6A1.
Yeah, I was thinking we're
Yeah.
actually going to get to this as an item, and we could discuss it all at once there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, one of the problems, one small concern I have is that our bookkeeping costs have gone up, and I'm wondering, although our new bookkeeper has been doing a lot of extra stuff, evaluating software, which our previous bookkeeper did not do for us. So maybe that explains the fact why, partly explains the fact why we're getting billed at the rate of generally 10 hours a month by our latest bookkeeper versus an average of 2 most months by our old bookkeeper. But the other thing is that my concern there, I discussed with Kevin Davis or texted with him, and it also seems like this accrual system of doing an accrual every month takes a little extra time. I'm not sure it takes an extra 8 hours. So, but again, whatever time is not being spent, I have to assume that our accountant is actually working the number of hours we're being charged, even though it's a 6-fold jump, partly because of a lot higher price per hour. So, but I caution the other board members to keep an eye on that, because I will too for the next year that I'm on the next 11 months I'm on the board. So. Anyway, do you have anything in your manager's report to add that isn't in there, Kevin? I should ask.
I guess really the biggest changes would just be that the electronic payment system is, assuming it gets approved, is likely to take on pretty much all of our spare time for the next several months. And as a result, 2 of our other projects are going to be on hold. The site master plan, partly because, we're kind of relying on a consultant who's working for free. So, we'll delay as much as they need, but partly because we don't have the time to push for it also. The winter work plan is also on hold, just because, again, this project, once it's approved, if it gets approved, after that, then we'll be taking a look at the contract, working with county council to kind of get that contract pushed through. That may take a little bit of time, and then the project will start fully in the first few weeks of January. Other than that, right now we're doing the audit. So we're currently working with the district auditors to give them the information they need to perform the audit. And then we should have an audit report sometime in probably February, I believe.
Okay. And you all got an email about that from the auditor. And I sent my signature. I'm hoping it made it through the electronic media. I'll hear back from them if it didn't. All right. Well, that seems, yeah, you're right. One of the reasons I wanted to kind of cruise through the items we've been through so far is I wanted to allocate more time for item 6A1, because I think we need to talk about that a bit. So, all right. Well, all we have to do is receive your manager's report. Any more questions on the manager's report? If not, then we'll go on to item 6, discussion and action items. A is digital presence enhancements as required by strategic plan goal 3.2, which is basically electronic payments, which I think we all understand why we have to change. Because the way we've been doing things for the last 50 years of signing checks in person may not do very well in the long run, especially with two board members who are around remotely. So, Kevin, I'll let you go back to that slide that you were showing us, I think. It's your action. It's your action, Ivan. So I should let you talk about it.
Sorry, I'm scrolling to it here. Hold on. Oh my goodness.
Is there actually one here for Perfect Mind at all?
That's what I'm...
Because you had it a minute ago.
There's a staff report and it's not in here. Okay, well, that's all right. I will tell you about it. Okay, so we looked at a whole bunch of different solutions for electronic payments. And again, this is also about having an electronic presence. We have a website, but there's not really any way to interact very much with the district. So we looked through a whole bunch of different vendors, and we found one called Perfect Mind, which met the qualifications that we're looking for, of being, of course, a all-in-one solution. So what does this offer? This is their sheet here. One of the key things that we need, of course, is membership management. We need to know, we need to manage our members, basically. For example, if you buy a pass, we need to have a membership for that. We also have members who are swim team members, for example. One perk, again, that we don't have right now is automated billing. So a lot of these kids come in and they have a check in their hand every month. It's a little bit inconvenient for parents. So I think the automated billing will be a big improvement. You can do any kind of activity registration. So that would be swim lessons, for example, facility bookings. This is also a big improvement over how we're doing it right now, where you have to come in person and fill out a form. Integrated POS. So if you come to the front desk, we can, make a sale of either a candy bar or whatever it is. The staff management isn't tremendous, but it's there. And of course, online booking. The reporting is very helpful, especially for accounting purposes. And some of the other stuff towards the bottom is not quite as important, but document management is, because that includes all of our waivers. So whenever someone signs up for a class, they may sign a waiver, and then it'll, of course, keep those documents handy so that if anything ever happens, we can pull them up and say, okay, here's the agreement that you've agreed to. In terms of email and marketing, we also have the ability to segment the markets to find out, okay, who hasn't taken a lesson in a year. Maybe we could ping them and say, hey, are you interested in taking a lesson, something like that. These are things that we can't really do right now. And so this program does all of it. And so that's very important for us. I did, unfortunately, I put a big staff report together, which is apparently not part of the packet, which includes a breakdown of the fees. The fees are $6,000 for the annual subscription. And this is the top line number. There's actually a lower tier support, which we recommend going with. So there's a $6,000 implementation cost. This is kind of the white glove implementation where they do more of the work and we do less of the work. So we're recommending going with the $6,000 self-driven method. And the reason for that is because we can always upgrade later. But let's say that we go with the $20,000 method and maybe we could have done it ourselves. And that's, that's kind of a waste. So we recommend starting with the $6,000 version. And there's an optional $3,000 custom GL export template. What this is it's a special report that would be able to import right into QuickBooks. And so that could be a potentially huge savings. I think that, if we were to do this, we would recommend going with the obviously paying the annual subscription fee. We would go with the $6,000 self-driven process where we use our own staff. And then the $3,000 QuickBooks integration. If needed, then we might need a little bit of additional support in there, and that would be very helpful. And it could even turn out, depending on the number of hours, that this might even be cheaper than just doing it ourselves, believe it or not. Right now, I budgeted out 10 hours for myself, Jay, and Sunny, so 30 hours a week. And that can very easily add up to more than this. If it ends up being much, basically if it's 20 hours, it's going to be a little bit above this number. So, you know, if it's 10 hours a week for each of us, then I think that's doable ourselves. But if it's more than that, then I think we would consider having them take on a bigger share of that cost.
Kevin, I have a quick question on the export template.
Yes.
So that's really typically not needed because the current software that you're using should be able to give you a CSV file, and QuickBooks will import a CSV file. All software will be able to import a CSV file just as it is. So the $3,000 you should not need.
If they export a CSV file,
they will, most of them do. Most of them will either export a CSV or a tab delimited file, pipe delimited, some kind of delimited file they will export.
Okay. If they don't, and it sounds like they don't, then they don't have that capability for whatever reason.
That would be really strange, but yeah, just please ask about that. Yeah.
Certainly. Well, and in fact, this is what I asked them for was for integration with QuickBooks, and this is what they put in.
Yeah, because, you know, if you just look at integration with QuickBooks will integrate, because QuickBooks is such a popular software, they will integrate with most of them with those generic files. So they'll be able to import a CSV, no problem.
Right, if they export as a CSV in the way that QuickBooks needs to read it as. It would be weird for them not to do that.
CSV, yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, CSV. So just ask them specifically if they can do a tab delimited or a CSV export.
Sure.
Okay.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
So if we do decide to upgrade, would we have to pay the $12,000 on top of the $6,000, or would it just be paying another $6,000?
It isn't super clear how they would do it. I know that there is this next page here talks about different rates that they can do as needed. I'm assuming that if you buy it as a package, it ends up you get a better value. So it really depends. So if we get just absolutely crushed and we're just not doing well, then I think that we would probably just say, okay, let's just upgrade, you know, add it's actually 14,000 on top of the 6,000 we already paid. We would just go ahead and we'd want to go ahead and do that. Now, let's say it's something in between. Maybe we're having a little bit of problems. We just need a few extra hours of help. Then maybe it might make more sense just to have them bill us out at the hourly rate.
How many? I know I looked at their website before the meeting. Once I realized this is what we're looking at, and I guess their target audience is recreation and park type customers. Do we have any idea where are they located, and because of this cost of travel? And two, any idea how large their installed base is? How many customers are already using this?
Right. So they're actually located in Vancouver, British Columbia. So they're a Canadian company. And I think there's actually, I don't know how many customers they have. That's not something we looked into, but we did find that there's a few different people who actually use their software in the area. One was Los Gatos Recreation, I think. And you've probably heard of DACA. DACA is one of another swim program in the area. Apparently they recently switched. I don't know if they're actually live yet, but apparently according to the sales guy, they've switched. I don't know, they might have no, they don't. So we've looked at a few different ones in the area that facilities that use their site. And so I don't have them on hand here. Let me see if I can pull one up. I think it was Los Gatos Recreation.
So you're looking at currently anticipating 10 hours a day for the three of you, or 10 hours a week for the three of you. For how many weeks? Is
13.
it 3?
13.
13.
1-3.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's,
It is Los Gatos Recreation that uses their program. And there's a few others too. They're fairly big names. So I think that it seems that there's a few other places locally that are using their software.
and I've used their software without knowing it because my yoga class comes through Los Gatos Recreation. So I've used it for sign up. It's okay, you know. Huh. Yeah, it's too bad we didn't have this whole brochure before the meeting to go through.
There's more than this too. Actually, there's a staff report that goes deeper in the cost. Unfortunately,
I mean, I realize no software is free.
we
But-
can, if it's a big problem, what we can do is we can skip this item and call a special meeting next week. The contract is being reviewed by county council and won't be done until the end of next week. So we could call a special meeting.
But what does anyone see any advantage to doing that? I mean, it looks like to have electronic payments and to make the changes that we're trying to make, we have to adopt some software. And this one, at least from the outside, looks like it's designed for our type of business.
Yeah. My thoughts are that generally speaking, this seems to do the job based on the features that have been described, you know, and Kevin, I think you've also taken a look at the features more hands-on, and if you think that it's what you guys need, then I think that's pretty much all we need to hear. As far as the pricing goes, I think it's honestly probably what I would have expected for something like our district. It doesn't seem like it's totally out of range or anything. And so I mean, I'm all for it as long as, you know, Kevin, you've had the time you need to take a look at everything. And I guess the only thing I would add is, you know, when you ask them about exporting with a CSV or tab delimited file, if you could also just maybe ask them, and they don't have to be transparent about this, but I think it doesn't hurt to just ask what percentage of their clients ended up going with that higher tier option for the one-time implementation cost. That would be just good to know beforehand. So
I think they said most of them go with the lower tier and they opt to do it themselves.
okay.
There is actually some benefit to doing it ourselves because it'll help us to train on the software as well.
Right.
So if someone else does it, then the next time we need to open up a class or set something up, it'll take longer. So it's going to be very painful for us, don't get me wrong, but I think it's also necessary.
I think also, Kevin, having worked with you for about a year now, your project management skills are fantastic. So you'll just do fine. It'll be good.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? I mean, I have to agree with Nicole. Once I got over my sticker shock, that I go, oh yeah, this probably is going to be what it's going to cost. You know, in the long run, my main reservation comes from the fact that our expenses keep going up and our revenues keep going down. So, you know, as a general rule, so that can't sustain forever. But given, I agree with what was just said, that doing the implementation yourselves is going to help more than having it be handheld through it by the more expensive training option. You know, and I have to agree with Nooper that, you know, if I think it was Newper, that if you've looked at, if this looks like it'll do the job enough that you're willing to recommend it, we might as well go with it, because we're certainly not going to write our own software.
Yeah, and Kevin, just so you know, we do see built-in reporting. Maybe you want to do a comparison in the reporting that they have inbuilt versus what you normally need for your day-to-day running. And while this is happening, if you need some custom reports built, it might be a good place to negotiate in the front end instead of later on. Because when you're giving them the offer of, yes, we're going to go with you, and if you throw in these, we need these additional reports, they might just build them for free.
Okay, thank you.
So do a one-on-one comparison on the reporting that they have built in versus what you need.
Certainly.
So does this also integrate the electronic signature authorizations for stuff?
No. This one is strictly customer facing. So this is really going to be on our website. So when someone goes to sign up for a class, then there's different ways of setting it up. By the way, there's a ton of different settings we're gonna have to figure out. But it'll make it so that you can register for classes. There'll be a portal, so if you need to cancel, you can do that. It also has something very neat, which is that when you pay for something, it'll recognize whether you're a resident and then give you a discount automatically, right? So there's some really neat stuff about this software. Nakul, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is the type. This was pretty much made for our type of facility, and it was half the price of its competitors. So I said, okay, this one looks like the one.
Okay. So you looked at least one other package, and it turned out to be twice as much and wasn't as in line with the things we need to do.
Well, we looked at three. We looked at more than three, but there was some of them just right off the bat we could tell it wasn't right. One of them, it just didn't meet our qualifications. It was also half the price of this. The one that was double the price of Perfect Mind, it is a better platform, but I don't know that it's double. It's not twice as good,
Right.
By the way, is DACA privately held, or is it also government owned or county based?
I'm not too sure. I always assumed it was private. But...
I think so too. And if a private institution is using it, it's got to be a good software.
Let me just throw this in there. My girlfriend used to swim and teach at DACA, and it is I believe it's a standalone private school based thing. So I don't think it's with the city or government or anything. They're in I think they're on Stevens Creek Boulevard, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you.
Then thank you, Jenny. And then you can absolutely be sure that they've done their research before they chose it. So good hands.
I'll just throw in there, they also deal with young children. I believe that there's a swimming training school, but there are youngsters there. So I'm assuming that they did their homework to try to make sure it was something that was appropriate and worked well for all ages. Thank you.
Also, it might be useful if you have a contact with Los Gatos and DACA et al. Who have used the software. They might be people who can help you get up to speed faster. I don't know if you have any contacts there.
Maybe poach one of the kids who teaches at DACA. There you go. They'll help you train everyone.
Yeah. Anyway.
I think we'll be experts by the time we finish implementing, that's for sure. So
hopefully you will be. Yeah, we will be. So, all right.
I should say though that the staff report, which I'll send after the meeting, there are additional costs which I've identified. So the costs that are in the agenda are for the contract only, but I did, if you read the report later and you see the numbers are a lot higher, that's because I've included staff time in there and anticipated credit card fees.
So how much higher are we talking?
I can pull up the report. I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of an estimated 44,000 the first year.
44,000 the first year.
Correct. Yeah, 10 hours, 10 to 20 hours for the three employees. That's quite a lot of money. Yeah, it's not like there's going to be a bill, but it is a cost nonetheless.
True.
Right. So it's an invisible cost. The second part that isn't, you won't be able to see here is credit card fees, which we anticipate to be less than $5,000 the first year. A, because program revenue is very low, and B, because, well, mostly because program revenue is pretty low. And then as program revenue ramps up, that cost will increase every year. So we anticipate at full load, assuming that most people choose to use electronic payment, which I think they will, I think what we'll see is probably closer to about $14,000 a year.
Excuse me, how do you, I actually just paid my property taxes online with a credit card, and there was like a major fee to use the credit card. How do you, are you guys, is this because everybody will be going to online credit card payment? No, because it's online.
Yeah, I mean, I think the convenience factor is real for a lot of people, so they would want to use credit cards. We can charge, you know, like a 3% fee for using credit cards. You know, there's different ways of doing it. So let's say that we charge 3%, then maybe some people will come in and pay with a check, but maybe some people won't. So if we charge 3% for everyone who uses credit cards, then that would basically wipe out that fee, that $14,000 I was talking about. But on the same token, there's a convenience factor there too, right? You know, if you want to make really seamless transaction and a great user experience, there's nothing worse than a 3% fee. You know,
is there an option for like a direct deposit or something like that? So that way we don't have to worry about the credit card fees, but it's still, you know, easy to use.
Yeah, so one thing that we can start moving towards is maybe ACH, so people can kind of go direct. I think that works really well for memberships. I don't know so much about, you know, one-time payments like, hey, I'm going to buy this one swim lesson, right? That's kind of weird to do it with ACH. Maybe some people, but not everyone will want to do it that way. Sure.
I guess when most people buy sessions, they go ahead and buy like multiple in a row, right? So I don't know. I'm just thinking. And a lot of people come back for subsequent years. So I could imagine where people don't mind having a, you know, recurring direct deposit sort of thing where it just pulls from their bank account every 2 weeks.
Right, we might be able to do that. Certainly, once we get things up and rolling and switch to automated billing, probably the easiest is to start with credit card and then start enticing people to move over to ACH. Maybe by offering
the other way around, Kevin. ACH is usually easier to set up because once the bank accounts are connected or your system is connected to that person's bank account, it's a one-time connection and then it's automated.
I see.
Yeah, when it comes to a credit card, it has to be a swipe or an authorization each time it's used.
Okay. Well, either way, we would definitely prefer ACH because it would lower our costs 100%. And I think that if we move to automated billing, and this kind of relates to the next item, actually, the authority to change programs and program fees. Part of actually exactly what you're talking about with you know, an automatic ACH every 2 weeks for lessons is that we could potentially look at changing our programs to be monthly, right? So for example, a lot of swim programs, you don't pay for a 2-week session, you pay for a month. It's a little harder with private lessons, but with group lessons, it's something that we could do. So I'm not advocating for group lessons to think private lessons are better, but again, these are things that we can evaluate as we're going through setting up the system and realizing that there's opportunities that we, you know, don't have right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think one of the benefits of sort of the 2-week sessions that we realized later on was that, you know, like if it's monthly, that's basically like during the summer, that's, you know, 3 or 4 months where you can get a slot. But, you know, there's so much demand for the sessions usually that by doing 2-week sessions, you make it so that more people can attend a session, but they might be attending for, you know, less time basically.
How does it, is there charges for refunds? Because I can see refunds happening.
That we'd have to talk with our with the credit card vendor. So that's the next step, right? So we have the vendor for the system. And then after some time, maybe in February, we'll have to start looking into vendors for merchant services. And that would be where we'd find out about refunds, things like that. But either way, it's the cost of doing business. I think, you know, there's not really any avoiding some of these fees. We can minimize it, but there's no avoiding it. And also keep in mind that cash and check, there are invisible fees with that, right? So the time it takes to count the cash, take it to the bank. There's even fees for depositing too much cash in the bank, which is kind of weird, but it's true. You know, in addition, you run extra liability through, you know, maybe people trying to break in, steal the money, as well as, you know, with checks, you have illegible checks sometimes that have to be rewritten, things like that. And people can steal too. Not that it's happened, but it's a possibility. So just keep in mind, even though the fees are very visible for credit cards, that doesn't mean that we're not already paying something now.
We can also just charge the convenience fee, right? Because do an ACH transfer or pay the convenience fee. It's still both electronic. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when I pay my rent, for example, like it's a very similar situation where it's just like, hey, if you pay with your credit card, like we're gonna charge you another 30, 50 bucks, whatever it is. So it like immediately I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then I'm just like, okay, there's a direct deposit option. I'll just type in my details there. So I think if we could have both options and just charge that 3%, that would probably be the best case scenario. I don't know if there's added cost to setting both of those things up though, like a time cost. And I guess it doesn't really matter though, if we're planning to do both in the long run anyways, right? Better to get it over with now than later on.
Certainly. So I'll have to ask them about whether we can set up that option of 3% or ACH. I don't know how that works yet.
So typically also keep in mind when you're talking to them, Visa and MasterCard charge lower fees, Amex and Discover charge more. So you might want to discuss that and keep in mind that we only accept Visa and MasterCard and not Amex and Discover kind of deal.
Okay, thank you.
So the $14,000 was for the additional fees of handling credit cards, you said?
Potentially. That's, I think the first year, it's probably closer to less than $5,000 based on the volume that we anticipate going through credit cards. And it depends how successful we are at moving people to ACH. It could be even less. 14,000 was more on the high end, assuming that we get or even exceed our 2019 revenues from programs. We're not there and we won't be there for a few years. So I think we have time to set things up, make our programs and our charging structure in a way that it moves people towards ACH and less for credit cards. So that 14,000 may never happen for decades if we can do things in different ways, maybe.
Right. So one question is obviously 6A2 to delegate authority to change or increase program fees. If we were to, it looks like we would have to increase our program fees to pay for the cost of going electronic by doubling or tripling or quadrupling them.
Not that much. That's for, sorry, are we talking about 6A1 or 2?
Well, I'm talking about 6A2 potentially. You know,
well, there's more than just costs in there. Did you want to skip over to that item or did you want to finish this one first?
Well, I kind of see, once you added the additional fees in, I'm going, is this ever going to pay for itself unless we charge 3 times what we're charging now for the only thing that makes money, which is lessons, or really raise our lap swim fees, or you know, because I'm just seeing that, wow, the cost differential of going to electronic for some reason with this approach just seems very high for the fact that we have very few transactions and they tend to be small. A majority of them tend to be, all right, it's $6 to do a lap swim. So hand you my credit card. Are the fees for doing it that way going to, make the cost really, we should be charging $8, $10, whatever.
Right. Well, I am also embarrassed to admit it seems like 6A2 was also chopped out. I had a staff report on that as well. Both of these were quite detailed. To give you an idea, 6A2 is related to 6A1. And part of this is to recoup costs, but it's not just from the system. It's also just a general increased cost of doing business. All the prices are up, right? The chlorine is more expensive, CO2 is more expensive, electricity is more expensive, staffing is more expensive. Inflation is real, it's here, and we need to keep up with it. There's also pandemic-related changes which require some changes to the way we do things. And that could be capacity changes, that could be format changes, that could be pricing changes a lot of times, right? People aren't comfortable being in close proximity with each other in the same way that they were before. We used to have a public swim capacity that was 100 people. And according to the fire department, we could go to 144, but I would never allow that because that's crazy. Now we're looking at, a maximum capacity of maybe 60, 75, on a busy day. And people don't feel good about it. And so, sometimes pricing needs to be it needs to be shifted accordingly.
How much different are our program fees versus other comparative, like Los Caros? How expensive is that compared to us?
We are very low.
Exactly. So maybe it's time to increase it.
So we have room to increase.
Yeah.
One of the ones we usually do price comparisons with other entities. And in our swim lessons, I think it's like $1.25 every minute for private lessons. And so that's how you compare it to other programs. Usually the YMCA has, the next closest one. And I think they're charging like $1.60 or $1.70, I can't remember. So we have room to increase. And I think a lot of our competitors are and have taken much more aggressive increases already. So we have room to increase in some places. And so, I think that there's a lot of reasons why we would change our fees and program structures. Normally, I would like to do this earlier in the year, typically at the same time as when we talk about inflation raises for our employees. I like to do that at the same time, so it's kind of clear what's happening. This year was a little bit different only because this system was going to present new opportunities that we wouldn't have. And it didn't make sense to change pricing and then realize, oh, we could have done all these things differently while we're setting it up. Right? So for example, the 3% or ACH, that's a different opportunity that we could do, right? So things like that, maybe we wouldn't have thought about unless we had this conversation, or maybe while we're setting it up, we may think of other things as well. But to give you an idea of what these increases might be, for public swim, it would be very minor, probably something like a dollar more. Right now, I think Blackberry Farm, they charge something like $7 or $8 or $9 a day, and more on weekends. That's another thing that we might want to look at, is charging more on weekends, because it tends to be very crowded during those times, and we haven't done that yet. So that could be another program or pricing change, is maybe sort of like a Saturday, Sunday fee and then a weekday fee. For our swim team, which is also very cheap, right now it's $100, we might consider doing something like $125, which is a big increase, but it's warranted because we haven't changed it since, I believe, 2013. I think our swim camp, for example, right now, I think we were doing weekly, but I think doing 2-week sessions makes more sense, and aligning it with our swim session so that if someone does our swim camp, they can actually purchase a swim lesson, and it'll be the same instructor for 2 weeks, right? And then the pricing also is just way too low, I think. So things like that we can change and pretty confident about. But I think we might also have other opportunities with to incentivize people to do things differently. For example, we have a 3-month swim pass, a lap swim pass. We could make that into a monthly pass now, because we did 3 months before because our office hours didn't align with our lap swim hours. And so when someone needed to get a pass, it was really hard for them to do that. So if they did it monthly, it was really difficult. So we did 3 months. We could actually make a 1-month pass now and have it automated. But talking about fees, we could also make an annual pass and then, discount it a little bit so that, the swimmers get a better deal. So opportunities like this that maybe come up as we're setting up the system, I have an idea of what they could be, but there could be different opportunities that I haven't thought of.
You're right. As you set it up, you'll see and talk to the people, you will get a lot of opportunities on exactly how and where we can change things. And I think it just, maybe I'm naive, but it makes sense to be a little bit below competition, but not far below. Just a little.
Absolutely.
Anybody else hearing a screaming sound in the background?
I think Kevin Davis, something happened when you were talking and your mic started making this noise. This loud humming in the background.
Oh no. I took my microphone back to Rancho, but I'm using the webcam microphone. Maybe I'll switch back to the other one next week.
Yeah, it was
Then
fine.
maybe
but
it was somebody
something
else, because
also-
it was fine when we started and it started in the middle.
Oh, that's weird, because nothing's changed here. Maybe I just plug in a microphone next time, it's like a separate one.
Yeah, can you just maybe double check like your mic settings on?
Okay. Let's see here.
Why don't we all just mute and unmute one at a time, and that way the others will be able to tell when the noise comes back, if it does. Yep.
Oh, is this the sound you're hearing?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, yeah, I think maybe it's kind of a cheap webcam, so I'll get a different microphone.
Knuckle, do you mind going on mute? I think might have been you. The noise is gone now.
No, but Kevin.
Okay, Kevin, stay on. Knuckle, stay mute.
Okay, I'm on. Is it making the sound?
Yeah, no, it is you, Kevin. It's you for sure. Knuckle is fine.
Yeah. I'll plug in a separate microphone for next meeting.
You did something while you were toggling the settings that made it go away for like 3 seconds.
Oh, no. It's gone. Oh, well, he turned his microphone off. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll get a different microphone. I was hoping this one would.
That's okay. It's okay. We can hear you.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad.
Yeah, we'll deal with it. So, well, the problem with getting back to A1 and 6A1 and 6A2 is that you're saying there's still it's still being reviewed by legal for the contract, but I don't see like I say, getting back to what I was saying before. I'm a little concerned that the costs of all this electronic payment stuff raises our basis so much as to price us out of the market, perhaps. But maybe I'm overreacting. I can accept that. But I also look at the fact that our trying to look at our customers. I'm not sure why they would do direct deposit from their bank account, direct transfer, ATH, I believe is what you mean, is direct transfer from their bank account to our bank account. is I'm not sure why they do that for a $6 or even a $10, let's call it a $12 lap swim fee. Or the fact that they sign up for the one set of lessons for their one child for the year, because we have some repeat customers like swim team, but and it's just the volume of our stuff may not justify this. But I can also see, based on the way things financially are going, and that having to accept electronic payments is necessary, and having this system keep track of that is okay. But actually the system, I'm sorry, I guess I got that mixed up again. The system is not to keep track of electronic payments so much as it is to run the business with, right, Kevin? Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Also, just quickly to address the getting priced out issue, we're priced well below others who do similar things. I think I'm not too worried about, I'm not worried about that. I think we can increase our price and still be below our nearest competitor.
All right. Well, we'll only know by trying, if we price ourselves out of existence, and we'll just we'll see. I could be, like I say, I'm given the fact we didn't have any of this stuff beforehand to look at and try and crunch the numbers ourselves. We were back to the fact of trusting that you've done that and found it to be the best alternative you can find for doing this task. I don't know why there's a gray splotch in the middle of my display from your thing. There we go.
I think that's just Kevin's window that's not being shared. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the video of all of you guys. I was trying to make it so I'm looking at you, but I'll just look to the side then.
Okay. Anyway, so where are we on this? Yeah, I knew this was going to take some time because it's a complex thing. It would be nice, even if after the meeting, to get the backups that we didn't get before this meeting. I'm hesitant to try and call a special meeting for another week, because I'm not sure we can pull it together.
I mean, just to give some input on the temperature of where we're at on this, I think I personally would like to voice my support for it. I think it's great to progress forward into the digital age. And I understand the calculated risk that comes with the added cost. But I mean, from a personal perspective, if I were theoretically a parent signing my kid up for a swim lesson, I would be much more inclined to, if I saw a pay now button on the website, I would be much more inclined to just do it then and there, get it over with, rather than seeing that I have to go and physically pay. That might be an inhibiting factor that we're not taking into consideration. So we may be, expanding our base by having this as an option. And based off of everything that was brought up during our discussion, weighing the risks and the potential benefits, I think, in my opinion, it makes sense to move forward with it. That being said, I agree with Steve that right now may not be the best time to go to a vote on it because we don't have all of the information in the packet yet. But just as an initial temperature read, I'm in support of it. So.
All right, I'm getting that from all of you, and I'm getting that feeling from all of you. And I understand that. And the problem with putting it off at all is that it slows down the implementation, right, Kevin? Is it,
Yes, yeah. As long as we can get everything kind of signed during the week of Christmas, then I think we should be on track. But any more delays than that would be bad.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, is everyone in town next weekend?
Yeah.
I'm not. I am going to be in India. I'm actually leaving on Monday.
Special meetings, we can do it in as little as 24 hours. So
I should
with
be able to
notice.
dial in as long as it's okay if I dial in from India.
Yeah, that could work because there's a few different ways we could do it. If there is a special meeting to consider this, it can be next week. If most people are in town, we could do it at the district. But otherwise, yeah, dialing in from India should be fine.
Except that I don't think the vote's going to change. I think we're going to have 5 votes for this, including mine, because it's as Misha said, we need it. I understand what you're saying. And that's not going to change in a week.
Absolutely, I think so too.
I mean, I don't see anybody voting against this, including myself. It's a risk, but it's a risk we have to take. And my feelings about the risk may be wrong, so I'm willing to accept that.
Yeah, the only thing I imagine changing personally for myself is just having that extra information allows me to make the commercial sort of, or the financial differentiation between all the options out there, which I'm already very confident that, Kevin, you've done that research, and like you've said, it's quite cheap compared to a lot of the competitors out there. So that's like, even the chance of that happening is so slim that I don't really like. I'm probably going to vote yes either way.
Right. So, okay, well, if there's no further discussion, I think I might call the question and see if there's any objection to going ahead with Perfect Mind, given the costs that we've seen. And they're larger than I realize. I still, like I say, would like to see the things we were supposed to get for this meeting that we didn't. And I don't think that'll cause us to call a special meeting, but then we'll have more information that we didn't have. Again, it gets back to trust, and I trust that Kevin Davis and everybody else has done their best to find what works. And I kind of wanted to roll in, so I move. I'm in favor. Is there anyone opposed to going with the Perfect Mind?
Oh, wait, was there a motion?
I think I made the motion, but I'll make the motion again to go with Perfect Mind. Who wants to second it?
Second.
Right.
It's not cool, I believe. All right. Any further discussion? No. And if all are in favor? All right, unanimous. All right, 682, delegate authority to general manager until May to change or increase program fees or formats. I think that's got to go hand in hand with this, as Kevin's already explained to us, quite well. So I move to approve delegating authority to change or increase program fees. Along with, like I say, if we don't do something like that, hopefully it'll help cover increased costs. Hopefully increased costs won't be as large as I think they'll be. Who wants to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, Misha second it. Any further discussion? I mean, I know that Kevin is and our other employees are well aware what the costs are of comparables in the community. So, and we've always been a little on the low side. So with the convenience that Misha was talking about to switch over to paying electronically, making it easier, I think that'll help a lot. So that's all I've got to say. Any other discussion? No. All right, then if no one objects, it's unanimous. All right. Going to be adopt new and amended. Let's see. What time are we at? 7:42. Everyone's looked at these amendments to policy 1,000, 3,000, 3020. We just have to adopt them, Kevin?
Yes. One thing that is different from last meeting is just the policy 1000 dropped the amendment that policy needs to be passed by resolution. That just seems a little much for a district of our size, so I took that out.
All right, so it no longer requires resolutions.
And just to clarify, this, the rest are just the same as last meeting, except you added in the pre-approved, I'm totally blanking on the word.
Approved vendor. Approved
Yeah,
vendor.
the vendors.
Yeah.
Actually, there's one new one as well. I think it's the purchasing goods, equipment, and procurement process. So there's two new ones. One is policy 3001, which is basically, like you said, yes, the approved vendors. Number two is purchasing of goods and equipment. It's a very small policy. We're required to have it by law.
And one of these policies, I believe, had a blank in it for the amount of approval level. I can't remember which one.
I think that one is 3020.
Yeah, I think it's 3020, which is got to be in here somewhere. There it is. Is this 3020? We scrolled past the number just barely. Yeah, 3020. Let's see, what was the limit we were considering?
I recommend about 10,000. I think that's enough for virtually most things, most normal things. We could replace a pump for that much. The only thing that would be a really big deal is the heater. If we had to fully replace the heater, that one would be much more than that. But there's no way that, I mean, we would have to go through a big process with that one anyway. So 10,000 should cover almost anything.
Or roof, no. All right, so I think we should plug 10,000 into that. Okay, so does anyone have an objection to passing all of these, adopting all these amendments to policy all at once? And I'm going to move to adopt all the policies under item 6B. And that's, well, you've got them in front of you. 1,000, 3,000, 3001, 3020, 3025, 3030, 3035. We went over the new policies at last meeting and just wanted some more time to make sure we had an approved a list of approved vendors, as I called it. So I move to adopt all those amendments and new policies. Who wants to second that?
I'll second.
Okay, that was Newport. All right. Any objections? Any discussion? No. Okay. Then any objections? No objections, and they're unanimous. I wanted to separate the resolution, adding the general manager as a listed key executive for the Wells Fargo bank account, subject to certain restrictions as imposed by the board, because it's different. I move to approve that, adopt that resolution.
I'll second it.
Okay, that was Misha. Any discussion on this? Hopefully this will cover transitions among, it'll cover a void we have right now. Somebody has to be around as of the November election next year. For instance, my signing authority, as far as I'm concerned, is over. And I think legally it's over. So hopefully by that time we'll have electronic signatures. That's one of the other big things that's going to happen in the next few months, I hope. But having the general manager, since I've been signing everything for a couple of years, one of the things I have to do every month is, since I'm a signatory and can log in, it's a very minor thing, but I get a monthly statement, which you can only get electronically now, thanks to Wells Fargo's changes. So I have to download that and email it to Sunny so she can balance the books. And that's something he'll be able to do as general manager, as a signatory, and just actually be able to go in and look at our accounts. One of the things I saw in this whole changes for disbursements was that another thing we sign on a periodic basis once every few months, is a request for funds to replenish the bank account for Wells Fargo. And that's usually at the tune of $100,000 or $200,000 at a time. So I've signed one of those about every couple months or so. It's not monthly, but every few months as we've needed it to replenish it. So that's something I'm not sure whether they'll let you do as general manager. I doubt it. No, it'll have to be a board member. So I'm hoping that whoever replaces me on the board next December is actually somebody who's local, so they can actually sign the few things that may need actual signature, such as the resolutions to meet electronically. All right. Any objections to the resolution? Any discussion? All right. Well, then I call the question, is any objection to adopting resolution number 12092021b, adding general manager? Nope. And it's unanimous. All right. And that brings us, I guess, to our last item, which is adjournment. This has been a long meeting, but I knew it wouldn't be short. And it was the reason I didn't want to make it necessary. We can still call a special meeting if we need one for some reason, Kevin, but hopefully we won't. Hello?
I can send the documents out after the meeting, and I'll include it in the next meeting in case the public has any comments on it. That way people can take a look at it. If there's any public comment, then they can look at it. And if the board, if any of you have issues, maybe we should convene a special meeting.
True. If anyone has serious issues. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, hey, the next meeting will be chaired by Misha, and thank you all for putting up with my strange style at times as running meetings, but I'm looking forward to another 11 months of serving with you guys. So thank you very much, and have some good holidays. I know at least she signed off. No, she's still there. Nooper says she's heading to India, so be safe. If you have to travel or you want to travel, be safe. And we'll see you next year, I guess, unless we have a special meeting.
Thank you, Steve.